Hello, everyone. My name is Demetrius Mack, and welcome to the Week 10 recap of my NFL Fantasy League. Now, we have a lot to talk about. It's getting closer and closer to crunch time, as it is every week, and I want to go over some things with you that I don't normally go over with. Besides the fact that I'm actually alone this week, I'm alone this week because scheduling conflicts, and it's good. It's the first time that I've been hosting the show for a long time by myself, so it kind of feels weird. I kind of got used to the company, but hey, like I said, I knew I wouldn't be able to get people every week, but hopefully we're back on track with more guests to bring with you next week. Now, getting into what I want to talk about, and that is the standings. I haven't really talked about standings because it's been kind of a little bit lopsided at first, but now that things are picking up, it is getting hot and heavy, and things are getting really, really heated. So let's check out the schedule. Now, first, we have in Division 1, the Murder Boners, who last week sat in second place. He has now dropped 3 rankings and is now in 5th place at a 6-4 ranking. Force, who is sitting at 6th place, has remained consistent. He's been kind of an up and down player each year. He wins one week and wins the other. He loses the next week. He's been kind of consistent. He's still in contention out here. He's not going to give up. And then we have our commissioner, who's went up from rank 7 to 1. I'm sorry, the Murder Boners has now dropped he dropped from number 3 to number 5. He didn't drop 2 rankings. He dropped 2 rankings. That's my bad on that part. The Suge Knights has gone up 1. He went up from number 8 to number 7. Our commissioner, the Fundraisers, has went up from 10 to number 9. And then Now Never Bowing Down, sitting at 2 and 8, has dropped down to number 10. This Division 1, although divisions in our particular league do not matter, it's the top 4 teams, no matter what, that go to the playoffs for weeks 15 and week 16. And it doesn't matter the division, although what it does matter is based on scheduling. Some people in Division 1 play each other definitely 100% twice the entire season, whereas in Division 2, they probably only play a handful of people twice all year long. That's the way the divisions are set up to be. So, this division is kind of the low end of the bar right now, and it's still got one of the highest scoring people in our league, which is the Murder Boners, and he has over 1,000 points scored already. He's already really hitting hard, and he's sitting at 6-4, and he's actually out of the play. If the playoffs were to start today, he'd be out of luck right now because there's only the top 4 teams that play him. But moving on to the next division, which is Division 2, and this division has 3 6-4 teams. All 4 playoff teams are in this division right now, including myself. I don't know how I got here. I started off 0-4, and I'm on a 6-game winning streak. Now, that streak could end this week, as it could every week, but if it does not end, I'm not going to say that. I almost said it there, and Isaiah's team wins. Isaiah's team loses. And actually, I'm going to get into it a little bit later on in the show, in the last portion of our show, and explain how significant this week is, even more so than it was last week. But some big things could be in the change here. All of a sudden, our league leader is now 7-3. He was 7-1. He's lost 2 in a row. And we've got 4 other people tailing him right now to catch up to him. So this is a big week throughout the league for particularly anybody. And not much has changed in the division. I've moved up 2 ranks. I was sitting at 4. I'm now at 2. I overtook the kid guy next because he beat me early in the year, but now I have that last win over him. So I believe if I finish with the same record with him, or it depends on who else he beat too. There's a lot of things that go into this, but right now I'm 2nd and 3rd. But I think if we had the same record, I would have that advantage over him in terms of ranking. And Dabalos, who has now went up from 5 to number 4, and he's sitting at 6-4. And then we have ESO Legends, who is sitting at 4-6, and has dropped down from 7 to 8 this week. So we have a lot going on. Our league is very, very tight, as you can see. And a lot of things are at stake each and every week because a lot of things go down, and you cannot afford to lose if you really want to be a part of this playoff run. I am going to try my best to continue this win streak all the way throughout the playoffs, but we'll see what happens. So moving on to the recap. The recap of Week 10. Let's break down what went down in Week 10. So, starting off in Week 10, we have my matchup versus the Kid Got Next. And this came down pretty much to what I've been talking about for you guys. It was a 111-98, and this came down to what I had been saying the entire time, is that A.J. Green determines a lot of the Kid Got Next wins, losses, and everything in between, because he has a great duo in DeMarco Murray and Drew Brees. They both got him. Drew Brees didn't play his best game, but still managed to get 21 points a game. Started to get 21 points last game. This is being recorded on November the 18th, which is after the Thursday night game of Week 11. And for all you Drew Brees owners out there, I know you're a bit disappointed in last night. Even though it was a away game, it was still a divisional matchup. I know you guys expected a lot more out of New Orleans yesterday. Although I think he still was able to amass about 15 points. But DeMarco Murray went absolutely off. He gave me a bit of a scare because he was his first player to really get up there. And he actually got 26 points. And he really had a terrific game. And I had to wait for a lot of my players to get out there. In the morning, I only had a few players play. On Thursday night, last week, I had Steve Smith, who got me 12 points. And in the morning, I just had Kyle Rudolph and Demaryius Thomas. And they got me the points that I needed them to get me. And I was still feeling a bit unsecure because I was like, you know what? I don't know. DeMarco Murray is really up there. Drew Brees is really getting it done. And at the end of the day, my Patriots players got it done, even though Tom Brady had a season low 11 points. Luckily for me, I have LeGarrette Blount, so it was all kind of balanced out. I kind of say he put out like reverse scores, and Tom Brady got LeGarrette Blount score, typical LeGarrette Blount score, and LeGarrette Blount got a typical Tom Brady score. So at the end of the day, it all balanced out. Looking at our benches, there was not much action going on here. Jamison Crowder got me 10 points. Matt Ryan was shut down in Philadelphia. He only got 12 points. And there was nothing. We put out our best efforts, and fortunate for me, my team prevailed in this one, thus putting me in the position that I explained earlier, because I beat the Murder Boners last week. That now vaulted me up to number 2 in the league, on the verge of actually being number 1. And that's absolutely incredible for me, because I started off pretty much 0-4, the laughing stock of the league, and now I'm on the verge of taking over first place, which just shows you how crazy this game could get and how fun and how intense it can be. So moving on to the next matchup, which is Isaiah's team versus the Fundraisers. Now this was a personal matchup because, as you guys know, Isaiah's team has been talking a lot of crap. Called our commissioner an automatic W, if you don't recall. That clip in the beginning of this video, that was just to reassure you guys that he did in fact say that this is an automatic W for him. And it was nothing such that he got blown out by 30 points. He put up an abysmal 65 points after talking the amount of crap that he was talking. And it just goes to prove that my point earlier on when I was saying, you know what, I don't really think he had a good schedule. I think he was getting the easy end of the scheduling in the beginning of the season, and he has a cupcake schedule. And that's what I think is going to come down to. I think Isaiah is on the verge of really having a big entire meltdown downhill, just going downhill. And honestly, I think there's even a strong possibility he might not even make the playoffs anymore. Now, you guys can call that hating, you can call that whatever you want, but I think he's just on the downhill track right now. And this is the wrong time to be going downhill. You need to be going up. And as for Commish, this is a great win for him. And I also called it last week, if you guys do recall. I called Tyrell Williams the pickup of the week. So for all of you guys out there who might have been like, watch this video and might be, you know what? Maybe I should pick up Tyrell Williams. And he did. Congratulations to you, because he got you an astounding 18.5 points. And it was the key cog in the Fundraisers win. And he is a terrific pickup. Le'Veon Bell did the commissioner some wonders. He got him 25 points. Also, Phillip Rivers had a struggles game with 4 interceptions, but still was able to amass 17 points. On Isaiah's team, the best thing for him was simply Jameis Winston in that Chicago game. There was nothing else for him here. Melvin Gordon, by Melvin Gordon standards this year, kind of got shut down. He had 13 points. He needed a lot more from him in order to compete, but the rest of his team wasn't worth anything. And it just goes to show how important Amari Cooper and Derek Carr are to his team. They had a bye week. So maybe hopefully this week in Houston, they can show up for him and give him a better performance, because he's going to need it. He doesn't have anybody else besides those two pretty much. And he has Melvin Gordon. And Melvin Gordon's on a bye this week. So he is going to have to rely on them. I'm going to call it. I think, he's going to need 50 points in order to get a W. But that's a later on going down the subject. I'll get back to that later. Moving on to the third matchup, which is Never Bowing Down in Force. Now, this was actually a pretty close game. It was 83-92. And Colin Kaepernick had 23 points against Arizona. And that was really shocking. That was a big part of why he won. Dak Prescott and Doug Baldwin really did Never Bowing Down wonders. 3 touchdowns for Doug Baldwin after just abysmal weeks in the past. And now it looks like Never Bowing Down could possibly catch his stride if he puts people in the right places. He's got a pretty decent team. He's got Jordan Reed, who's going to see better weeks. He's got Todd Gurley, who's going to keep getting the ball regardless of how abysmal the Rams offense is. And he's got Dak Prescott and Doug Baldwin. So I think things could be looking up for Never Bowing Down in terms of finishing in the 5th, 6th place region. I think he can finish among those ranks. Now, Force is someone who's competing for a playoff spot to compete for the league title. He has got to make good decisions week in and week out. He didn't make a good decision this week by having one of his kickers. I'm sorry. He did. I was about to say, I was looking at it. It had 2 points. He had everybody that he needed to have in. And he just needs to continue to do this because I think one of the problems with him, he hasn't really been paying attention 100%. I think he's been paying attention like 75%. And at the end of the day, I think it's cost him some games, but he's still 5-5 in contention. So, Force, if you're watching this, just make sure to have your lineup set, man, because you're still in this thing competing, just like the vast majority of us in this league. And looking at the bench had about 20 points. Jeremy Hill had about 10 points. Antonio Brown on the bench, again, is one of the things I'm talking about. If he puts Antonio Brown in, he will be a much tougher opponent. But like I said, I think he's not really paying attention 100% here. So right now, we're going to see. But this was the final score here, 83-92. Moving on to the 4th matchup, the Suge Knights versus the Murder Boners. This was a huge matchup, a matchup that determined a lot and is moving Dion. He's sitting at 5-5. He's sitting at 7th, but still, he's just one win away, and a couple people need to lose for him to be in that playoff spot this upcoming week. And let's take a look at this. Let me see. Let's take a look at this real quick. And Aaron Rodgers came through for him and David Johnson, of course. Now, David Johnson was technically shut down yardage-wise, but he still managed to get his touchdown. I mean, he still got 2 touchdowns, 55 rushing yards, and 46 receiving yards. He still got it done. But in terms of running over the abysmal 49ers defense, they kind of shut him down, which is really surprising. And they actually had a chance to win the game, but at the end of the day, they couldn't get it in. They couldn't get it done. Some other notable performers for him is Devontae Adams and Vernon Davis. Vernon Davis, who has been playing very well as of late, even with the return of Jordan Reed, he's still been playing. So I think if he's still out there in your league, maybe go and get him, because we all know how shallow this tight end position is. It's a very shallow position, and you're gonna need it. You're gonna really need a tight end. So if Vernon Davis is still out there, I don't think it's a bad thing to go ahead and pick him up, even though Jordan Reed is still technically the number 1. On the Murder Boner sides, Ezekiel Elliott is only thing, and Willie Snead, I would say he had a good game because of the 2 touchdowns, but 47 yards and 2 touchdowns, I don't think that's going to happen too often. He's not really that big of he is a red zone target, but I think players like Michael Thomas and when they run the ball or are more of a target for the Saints offense. Although yesterday, I don't know what was going on. It was pretty hard to watch that game as a football fan. But Ezekiel Elliott is his team. He is the motor. He's the glue. He's the heartbeat. He's everything for his team. And honest to God, like, Murder Boners needs a quarterback right now. And his quarterback situation is Kirk Cousins, who got him 18 points, who could have made a bit of a difference here. He definitely could have made a difference. And he has Carson Wentz. So I think he's just going to have to ride out Kirk Cousins for the rest of the season, because Carson Wentz, you can't trust your rookie. Not now. I mean, even if they do get some W's, it's still like he's fallen off the grace land for fantasy land for me. And I think he needs to roll. Then Michael Thomas had an abysmal game. Oh my my God, excuse me. Having a coughing attack here. Michael Thomas had an abysmal game versus Denver. He had 2 fumbles. He had exactly 40 yards and 2 fumbles, which equals 0 points. Because if you lose 2 fumbles, you lose 2 points. So those little points that he got him actually ended up not going for anything. And that's basically like having a player on a bye week or him getting injured, or just you not knowing that he wasn't suiting up for the game. It was terrible. It was a huge letdown, and that's cost him his playoff spot as of right now. And it was a really hard hit. He had both the receivers in for New Orleans, and one of them did him some good. The other one did him some very, very bad wrong, which, even if, there's some decisions here. If he had Kirk Cousins in, he could have gotten the win. And if, Michael Thomas hadn't screwed him over with those 2 fumbles, Murder Boaters would be at 7-3 now and not out of the playoffs. But instead, he's 6-4 and he's out of that. Now he's got to fight back for that playoff spot. So that's pretty much the wrap up of this game. Nothing going on really much with the bench here. Texans had pretty good defense for the Suge Knights. Nothing else pretty much going on over here. Moving on to the last matchup, which was Dabalas and ESO Legends. Now, this was a close-knit game. Now, the biggest letdown for me was Kelvin Benjamin. And the biggest letdown again this week for him was Kelvin Benjamin. Kelvin Benjamin got him about 5 points this week for week 11. And he got him about 6 points this past week versus versus Kansas City. And it's a really big letdown because I think Kelvin Benjamin is one of the more talented receivers. He's certainly one of the more larger receivers. And he has the advantage over a lot of cornerbacks. So I don't understand why he hasn't been dominating. And it's kind of really frustrating, I know, for fans out there and for owners of him. Because you're like, man, I don't want to bench him, but he's not giving me what I need to do. And if you're losing because of situations like that, it might be hard. You might, I think you got to take a look at the schedule and see what you got. It might be time to consider benching Kelvin Benjamin. I mean, there was a time like you couldn't have been faulted for benching Odell Beckham Jr. And now look at him, Odell Beckham Jr. Getting 97 yards and a touchdown last week versus Cincinnati. He's a top 5 receiver now. Sometimes it just trends upwards, and sometimes it just trends downwards. Odell's going up while Kelvin Benjamin is going down. He has both of them on his team, but a makeup for that is Tyler Eifert is back and playing really well. He had 100 yards last week and a touchdown, I believe. And this week, he had 90 the previous week for week 9. And then this week he had 9 points and 96 yards. So that's really good. I said tight ends getting you 9 points just off of receiving yards is really good. You're going to need those points because it's a really shallow position. I can't say that enough. And if you have a high-quality tight end, your chances of winning your league are probably going to skyrocket up unless somebody has just a clusterfuck of insanely talented people on their team. But looking at over here, we had Julio Jones doing Julio Jones. He did have a couple key drops, which was kind of disappointing. I was kind of disappointed that he had a couple key drops, but he still got 13 points just off yardage. Blake Bortles got 17 points here. And Delaney Walker really came through. There was a field day for that entire offense of the Titans, of the Tennessee Titans. They just demolished Green Bay, which was a bit surprising. But they did what they did. And fantasy owners, if you had any piece of that Tennessee pie, I know you were licking your lips because you ate that day. It was a very fantastic day for Tennessee, for Tennessee's fans and for people who had any Tennessee players in fantasy. So this one goes to the Ballers, 113 to 103. Now we are at the portion of the show which is the week pickups of the week, the transition pickups of the week, and we have quite a bit. We have quite a bit to go through. Let's start off at the bottom. We got Kitty Britt by the Fundraisers. He's a player I dabbled with for a little while. I think his value would be just so much higher if he had the touchdowns, but he just doesn't have the touchdowns for me, and he's not getting enough yardage. He's getting a decent yardage. He's getting 60, 70, 80 yards game. And this past week, I think he had like 100 yards. And he has a lot of catches, and he has a lot of targets every week, but he just doesn't seem to get the end zone targets. And that can be really hurtful, when you're getting 60 yards, 70 yards, it's not enough unless you have that touchdown. So I think The commissioner going up here. I don't think it's a bad pickup, but I don't think it's a great pickup. Moving up, we know how CJ Prosise played. The kid got next is taking a chance on him because of that 1 week outing. But Thomas Rawls is coming back, so we're gonna see how that committee shapes out. I know they cut Christine Michael, so if you have him out playing out for you, you're gonna want to drop him because he is gone. There's no more Christine Michael on the Seattle Seahawks, and you're just gonna want to roll either CJ Prosise or Thomas Rawls, who might be available in the waiver wires, depend on how your league rolls. If people have stashed Thomas Rawls or whatnot. And we've got Martellus Bennett here. Now, an interesting pickup for me is Martellus Bennett. And I want to see the drops and go over to the drops. And we have a drop here of Martellus Bennett in week 10. And it was kind of last minute. It was November. It was that Sunday. And it was a bit confusing. I wasn't really sure why he was dropped. And it's a big, major pickup for me because it's looking like Rob Gronkowski is not going to suit up versus the San Francisco 49ers. I now have Martellus Bennett, who's going to be having added looks, and I have Tom Brady and LeGarrette Blount going up against the San Francisco 49ers. That bodes very well for me. This is a huge pickup for me, even if it's just for 1 week. Every week is so crucial, and Martellus Bennett, I'm expecting very big things from him this week. Along with, actually, Ryan Matthews. Ryan Matthews picked up by our commish, and Ryan Matthews, I think, is going to be doing good things. I think he's going to do a lot of things. Now, I want to move up to the other entry. The rest is pretty much just defense, and Thomas Rawls being picked up by Isaiah's team. And I want to pick up to the Ballas, who made a move yesterday. He made a move yesterday, and he picked up an old player of mine. I dropped Jarvis Landry for reasons that are kind of unfortunate. He's getting the targets and everything. He's just not getting the yardage that I require of him. And since he's not getting the yardage that I require of him, and he's not getting the touchdowns, I don't know what else I can do for him. Because that offense is turning into a running offense. And I have Jay Ajayi. So I think it was appropriate for me to let him down. He's just not the player he was last year. Simply because of that offense that's going down there in Miami. It's really struggleish. And Jay Ajayi could even see some struggles in the future for me. I don't know, because that offense does tend to struggle it sometimes. But the Ballas picked him up. Picked up Robert Woods, he picked up Chris Boswell, and he picked up James Starks. Now, I have a suspicion, if you go into your app or if you go into the pickups and transactions, you look at all these players' projections, these are the highest projected players in their class. Now, a lot of players tend to do this, and I think Devon might have fallen into the trap of this by looking at, these players are projected to do this, I'm going to pick them up. Just because they're projected to have a crazy amount of points doesn't mean they're going to look at it. You got to look at the matchups and who they're playing, who they're going up against. And honestly, hopefully it turns out the best for him, because he's in that fourth place bubble. He needs to keep winning in order to stay in that spot, and along with pretty much everybody in the league, because everybody's on everybody's throats and the league is so close right now. But I think that is very interesting to pick up Jarvis Landry and Robert Woods. And it's just a hunch of mine. Devon, if you're watching this, I'm sorry, man, but I think you're just picking these guys up based off of projections and not really looking at the bigger picture of the schedule. Alrighty, so now we are here. We're here at the last matchups right here. The last portion of the show right here, which is the Week 11 matchups. And what I believe is going to go down here. I'm here by myself, so this section is probably going to be a little bit shorter than usual. So here we have my team going up against ESO Legends. And he has 5 points already, and that's thanks to Kelvin Benjamin, who had 56 yards. He missed a bit of a game going out with a little, I believe, arm scare, but he came back in and he performed, and he didn't perform enough, in my opinion. I think he's really banking on him having a big game versus New Orleans' less than stellar defense, but he just wasn't eating that game, and honestly, I think he's a bit disappointed by that. But honestly here, if you're looking at this very closely, and you look at it very, very closely, he has all home matchups. He's got Odell versus Chicago. He's got Tyler Eifert at home versus Buffalo. He's got Stephon Diggs at home versus Arizona. He's got Russell Wilson at home versus Philadelphia. He's got the match. It's going to be hard for me, for my streak train to reach 7. I have all away games. Now, fortunately, 3 of those away players are going to be playing at the 49ers' house at Santa Clara. They're going to be playing there. So I think what this is going to come down to is Tom Brady and the Brady Bunch going to perform for me? because at the end of the day, I don't see my receivers doing too much. You know, I got Steve Smith playing at Dallas, Larry Fitzgerald playing at Minnesota. Larry Fitzgerald may see the targets, but I don't know how well he's going to do against that Minnesota defense. Even though they've been on the decline, they're still not the San Francisco 49ers defense. So I don't know. The Eagles defense is probably going to get me next to nothing playing at Seattle. So I got to look out for that. And on the bench, I really do. I don't have anything to go with here, and neither does he. That are better choices than what we've got in right now. Jamison Crowder would be the only thing. I think Jamison Crowder over Steve Smith might become a reality. I'm not sure. He scored 10 more points in his last 4 fantasy performances, and that's really big. That says something, but I don't know. I just don't trust that matchup in Green Bay. I feel like this might be the turnaround matchup for Green Bay. Maybe. We'll see. But this one's going to be hard to call, but I think ESO Legends has a strong chance of outperforming me, depending on the performance of Tom Brady and the Brady Bunch performing at San Francisco. So we'll see how that one goes down. Next, we have the Kid Got Next in Force. This one's already off to a hot start for the Kid Got Next. He's got 18 points. Drew Brees kind of let him down with 15 points. That's part of his 1-2 punch with DeMarco Murray. He's going to be looking to DeMarco Murray to have a really big game, one of those 25, 26-point performances again, because Drew Brees already performed a subpart of what Drew Brees can do, and Greg Olsen already performed subpart of what he can do, only 3 points. And it was really a subpar performance for both these players. And he's got 2 players out, 2 of his top players out, and he's got a grand total of 18 points. That is a little bit worrisome for him. But as you can see over here, Force has not yet made the adjustments needed in order to secure this win. He's got quite a few players in on bye. So he's going to have to put in players that could perform. He's got a bunch of players that could perform well. And it's just gonna come down to what is he doing? Is he paying attention? And the Kid Got Next is one of those 6-4 teams. I'm one of those 6-4 teams. So if we both get the win here, and the Murder Boners gets the win here, moving on to our next matchup, and Isaiah, moving on to this matchup in a bit, as Isaiah loses to Dabalos, who is also 6-4. That means we will have we will have 5 people at 7-3 going in to week 12. Now that is very dramatic. I don't know if any of your guys' leagues are going down like that, but our league is. And that's what I meant at the beginning of the video when I said, this is another very hectic week that means quite a lot. Because if all 4 of these people, if I win, if the Kid Got Next wins, if the Murder Boners wins, and if Isaiah's team loses to the Ballers, who is at 6-4, everybody will move up to 7-4, and Isaiah will drop to 7-4, just creating even more of a clusterfuck of just BS. And the Suge Knights moving up to 6-5, he'll be right there too, meaning this could go any direction with only a few weeks left in the game. But let's take a look at this matchup right here. This matchup right here, I believe, is going to go to... I believe the Fundraisers can win this one. I do. I think he's on a streak right now. He's got Ben Roethlisberger and Le'Veon Bell playing at Cleveland, and Ryan Matthews might struggle at Seattle, but he's got Dez Bryant at Dallas. He might struggle there. Golden Tate. But I think it's going to come down to these 2 players. These 2 players can get him 50 points, which they easily could. I think he has a good chance of winning. On the other hand, if Ezekiel Elliott goes off versus Baltimore, although Baltimore one of the more stout defenses out there, even though they don't look at it on fantasy paper, I think he can get the win here if Kirk Cousins performs the way he needs to, and if T.Y. Hilton and if Ezekiel Elliott. I think it's just gonna come down to his heartbeat. Is Ezekiel Elliott gonna come out for him? If so, he can get the W. And not much to go. There's a lot of buys over here on our commission's side, and over here there's not much to put in. He's not gonna put in Crabtree, surprisingly, or though he might. I don't know. He could possibly put him in, but I think the people he's got out there right now. I would put him in over Tyreek Hill, but we'll see what direction he takes. And moving on to Isaiah's team, off to a 25-0 start, thanks to good play from Jonathan Stewart, Mark Ingram, and Coby Fleener. Now, 3 players, 25 points. That's not the best solution in the world, but you can't be mad at Coby Fleener. Did not perform until he got his little touchdown there. It got him 7 points. That's what you need. You need, if it's just one catch and a touchdown, that's good enough for tight ends out here because, boy, that position is just struggleless this year. But it's going to come down, especially with the low performances from his running backs that he's gotten, it's going to come down to AC/DC for him. Otherwise, I think Devon is going to blow him out of the water once again. I think Tyrod Taylor's up for a huge game. I think Theo Riddick could be up for a good game, and Allen Robinson and Robert Woods could be up for a big game. Delaney Walker could be up for a big game. I think Isaiah could get blown out of the water by 30 points again here if AC/DC don't put up a combined 50 points. And then again, he still might lose by a considerable amount. I know it sounds like I'm hating, but I'm not. I'm just looking at these matchups, looking at who he has and how they've performed for him in recent weeks, what players have performed. And Eli Rogers could be big for him against Cleveland. We'll see. We shall see. A big factor on the bench for these two teams is Julio Jones is on bye and Melvin Gordon's on bye, along with the Broncos defense for him. So we're going to see how things go for these two teams. And if things go south for Isaiah's team, he will be a world of strugglish because all the mess he was talking with, and then he'll have 4 other people with the exact same record as him, with one person with one less win than him coming up. So we will see how this one plays out. So the last matchup is the Suge Knights versus Never Bowing Down. Big matchup for the Suge Knights. He needs a win. He can't drop this one to Never Bowing Down because he's in a position where he can get left behind. If he drops this one and everybody else wins, it goes to 75. He'll be at 5-6, and he'll be 2 games out, which will probably end his chances at a playoff hope. So this is a bigger matchup than he might know. So Dion, if you're watching this, I'm rooting for you. Rooting for you out here. And Solomon does have the matchup. He has the home matchups, and it's going to be a tough one for you, but I believe you can get it done. I think you can get this one done as long as certain players perform for you. I think your Green Bay players have to perform, and I think David Johnson has to have a big performance along with Mike Evans. Because Dak Prescott, James White might get some, but that all depends on how Deion Lewis is going to be incorporated. Because I think Deion Lewis might be back for the Patriots. So if you remember him from last year, I would go, just maybe wait a week and then stack him up. But it's going up against the 49ers. He could have a breakout game against this team. I'm telling you guys, I'd pick him up myself if I didn't have LeGarrette Blount. But we will see how this one goes down. In this one, I have the Suge Knights winning it, but I think it could be close. I think it's anyone's ball game here. So that wraps up this week. There's a lot at stake here, folks. There is a lot at stake. Like, I hope all of your guys out, if you have a fantasy league of your own, it's as interesting and as just convoluted as this one, because this one is really, really, really starting to get down to the man. Like, if I don't make the playoffs, I don't know what I'm going to do with myself. And it's getting really hectic, and a lot's on the line, and it gets more and more stressful each and every week. If you think this week's going to be stressful for us, try next week. If everything, like I said, if everything goes according to what I've put forth, all the 6-4 teams win, and Isaiah loses. Things will be even more hectic next week. So thank you everybody so much for watching. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to my channel for more content like this each and every week. And I will see you guys in the next video. Make sure to turn on notifications. That way you don't miss a video every time I upload. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Until then, I'm Demetrius Mack. And I'm out. Peace.